29 June 2023, and Ngobani speaking once again. What you realize now with these white people that run the world is the desire to be worshipped. That is why we have these so-called secret societies and these global hegemonies. They are meant to they are meant to build a picture that they are gods. Remember the Tower of Babel. It was men who had separated from God and began to believe that they themselves are God. That is why they built a Tower of Babel, saying that they are going to rise above and be where God is and be gods themselves. You understand? So I've seen it with uh, sinister people around me and through my life experiences that the people, the men who want to have total dominion over other men, over other people, is that a desire in them, that devilish desire to become a god and to be seen as a god, and they will use any means necessary to maintain that dominance, even though that whatever justified their dominance in the first place is no longer valid. There is usually a valid reason why somebody is a leader in any place, and when that reason is no longer valid, it's not necessary for them to continue leading. They need to recess and have someone else take over. So you see that when it turns out in global politics, we have got these white countries predominantly who have led the globe economically. Look at the British kingdom that has led, that was a global leader for hundreds of years, and therefore thought that they can sustain their global leadership owing to their color being white. And anybody who is not white, or like black people like us, do not deserve a chance to even exist in the world. That is why HIV/AIDS is in Africa and not anywhere else, because we have to fight for dear lives as black Africans for a place under the sun that God created on the earth, that God created all men equal. As Abraham Lincoln had said that God created all men equal and have all got equal rights. But however, that lesson does not seem to to enter into their minds. They still believe that some men are more equal even before gods. In fact, some men are gods themselves. So so they so since they are God, they cannot allow a black country like Zimbabwe to succeed, because knowing very well that Zimbabweans are educated and are well capable of building industries better than American industries, better than British industries, so educated to come up with a society so sophisticated and beneficial to the rest of the world, knowing that it is possible, it scares the living hell out of them. It scares the devil on the inside of them, who believes that he is a god, who must maintain this god appearance that white people are better than black people. And therefore, if a black person tries to outperform a white person, they will find all other ways of trying to dim the light of that black person, so that he doesn't destroy the narrative that white people are smarter than blacks, white people have got more money than blacks. That is why even in the banking systems, whether you are in the Western world or you're in South Africa or you're in Zimbabwe or all over the world, if you are white, you have got better access to financing and to become owner of businesses, and black people have got no access to that financing, because even the people that own the banking systems are white for the purposes of building white culture, white dominance, and black people just are just subservient to that system. So you cannot expect FNB or Upside or Nedbank, for example, in South Africa, to be spearheading a broad-based block economic empowerment. On the contrary, they exist for the purposes of undermining things like the ANC's broad-based black economic empowerment. You see it here in Cape Town most provocatively by the abuse of triple BEE policies, by making sure that they benefit more those whites, those black people who are the whitest, the so-called white coloreds or white Indians. Indians that look white or colors that look white. The more white you look, the more you are likely to be used, because at least you tick the PEE boxes. But the more black you are, the more you are disallowed, because they don't want you to mess with that narrative that white is better. So this is a vision that I've realized is shared amongst the majority of white people. Not all white people believe that, but I've seen that there's quite a number of them, and a lot of them who believe in it, and the others who may not be consciously be aware that they are subconsciously biased in that mentality of white supremacy, and therefore tend to make decisions that are geared towards promoting whiteness and this ideology that white is better and black is not. And therefore, if black is trying to promote itself or trying to become better than a white person, or trying to outshine a white person, that black man must be constrained through whatever means necessary, the end justifying the means, meaning that the end is this continued pursuit of this fallacy that white men are created better than black people. Hence, you will see that countries like Britain will go to the ends of the world to make sure that Zimbabwe does not succeed. But however, they will let Australia and New Zealand succeed, because Australia and New Zealand are run by white people, actually white countries. So white man is allowed to express himself and be dominant in the world and be successful, but a black man cannot be allowed to do that. When Robert Mugabe was one of the best educators in the 1980s, because he was a black man, he could not be allowed to carry on with that. So they had to bring ASAP so that it can deindustrialize Zimbabwe and curtail his improvements in the education sector and across all the other sectors in Zimbabwe. So you will see that this continued attack of the Britain foreign policy on Zimbabwe carries on today, even in the year 2023, when Emerson Mnangagwa, who took over from power, who by the way, Emerson Mnangagwa is known by by ZANU-PF insiders to have been a British spy from the 1970s. So they are happy that their stooge is in power, carrying on their agenda of systematically destroying the nation of Zimbabwe through destroying that very one seat of power that is necessary, the seat of the presidency. That is why Emerson Mnangagwa's policies are geared towards wealth accumulation for himself and his family and his close cronies, to the detriment of the whole country, severely neglecting or blatantly neglecting service delivery objectives that even the government of Robert Mugabe was able to fulfill, clearly showing you that he really does have an internal dysfunction. Either he has got a personal internal dysfunction that makes him not to want to work, or he is coerced by his British compatriots to destroy the Zimbabwean politics, like the Zimbabwean society, systematically for the purposes of curtailing the advancement of a black man, because the Zimbabwean black man and woman has been identified by these British white people as being a threat to their hegemony or their supremacy. And you ask yourself a question: what did these black Zimbabweans do wrong to Britain? Nothing wrong. What the wrong thing that the black people did was to be super intelligent, bright, and yearning for a position or a place in the global village. But the white supremacists in Britain do not like that, and therefore need to chop that down. And they have punished us through the so-called targeted sanctions that have had the outcomes of having our black people who are well educated working in ships around the world, working in Gulf estates in the United States, in Europe, working as servants, as maid servants, as caregivers to the white populations. So we as black Zimbabweans have been destroyed to be servants, so that when a Zimbabwean now dreams to want to go to the United Kingdom because there is better pay. A Zimbabwean dreams to work in the ships because there's a better pay. A Zimbabwean dreams to work in the United States Gulf estates because it's a better pay. But they do not realize that their country would have had a better pay had Britain not destroyed it. So when this whole idea of this God complex that they have is created when they see that you are a succeeding country like Zimbabwe. They destroy you, you are crushed to become nothing, and their artificial elevation. For example, if Britain is a 3 out of 10 and Zimbabwe is attempting to become a 5 out of 10, they will bring Zimbabwe down to be a 1 out of 10 just to maintain that 3 out of 10 is the best in the world. So what I'm saying that what I'm saying to the people of the world, the rest of the world, global community, I am saying to you that if you let Britain, which is the 3 out of 10, be allowed to destroy Zimbabwe to the floor, so that they want to maintain this fake identity, this godlike presence, you are actually denying the whole world of amazing things that would have been built through Zimbabwe. The world is leading cure for HIV, cure for cancers, cure for the climate change. Who is going to deal with the climate change? Perhaps the people are Zimbabweans, but because Britain does not want a black person to shine, they would destroy their economy, destroy their governance system, so that even though these Zimbabweans are well educated, they are not be able to access education facilities. Even if they do get it, they'll not be able to access jobs because they are black. Therefore, they are reduced to be security guards in the United Kingdom or caregivers in some hospital in London, instead of being the people that cure cancer. But yet the global village understood that the sin of Britain on Zimbabwe is actually not just a sin on Zimbabwe, but it is a sin on the whole world, because the potential of Zimbabwe that is supposed to serve the problems of the whole earth are under the potential of Zimbabwe, I'll take that again, the potential for Zimbabwe to solve the problems of the whole earth is undermined by a British white supremacist society that has got a problem with this gold God-like ego that needs to be worshipped for the purposes of futility anyway, because now we have got global warming raging. There is no white people in the British foreign policy who can come up with strategies or who can come up with technologies that can deal with global warming, who can come up with technologies that can deal with the cancer and the viruses that are popping up around the world, who can so you can see that the globe itself suffers because the globe allows the white supremacists in Britain to carry on destroying my country of Zimbabwe. My name is Ngobani Zondo, and I am running to become the president of the Republic of Zimbabwe. And I implore you, global community, therefore, to take a look at the Zimbabwean situation and recognize that it has got a direct impact on the success of this world, because I am not overestimating our abilities, as the world knows that Robert Mugabe was a great educator and therefore he had bright people. It is well documented that that is the case. So it's not something that I am just saying for political expediency, but it can be fact checked. So having said that, and it is also documented how the Zimbabwean country as a country has been allowed or has been left to slide down the drain, even though the country never had an internal war or a resistance that may lead to some kind of civil war like in other African countries. Yet the country has been underperforming all countries around the world. Talking of inflation rates and high prices, hyperinflation, uh, excessive currency wars against the country, and political instability that has got a negative effect on Zimbabweans' ability to become great engineers, great inventors, and pursuers of great things and happiness around the world. The whole world has been denied the talent of Zimbabweans. That is my argument in this video, that the whole world has been denied the talent of Zimbabweans, and the whole world is now suffering consequences of allowing the British to be able to wage this war against the Zimbabwean in such a nefarious way. And I implore Washington, who's a close ally of Britain, to redirect its energies from trying to crush people all because they are black in color, but to recognize that there is a potential in letting Zimbabwe express itself and thereby becoming the a global leader in answering the questions that the globe is facing, because it seems that the white people in Britain do not have the capacity to fix all the problems of the world. God gives talent freely across all men, not just in the United Kingdom or USA, but also in Zimbabwe and the rest of Africa. So my question to you, to people of the whole world, why are you letting Zimbabwe and the rest of Africa to suffer, its people to suffer, when actually you might never know that the true gold and diamonds in Africa and Zimbabwe is not the ones that are found under the ground, but it is its people. It is the potential of its people. If we improve the development index of our nations in Africa, perhaps we might come up with the next inventors that will be able to build machines that can travel across the galaxy to discover other Earth-like places. Perhaps they will be able to mine energy from outside space that can be able to overtake to replace what we have right now that is causing global warming. Perhaps we'll have great engineers that will be able to fix the ozone layer through breakthroughs in knowledge, because we've allowed these black people to succeed, to enter institutions of education that have been preserved for the privileged white kids. I'd like to pose it to you: just because your children are white and privileged and are put in prestigious schools, that does not automatically mean that they have got the right talent to actually deliver on what they have to deliver on. But just because somebody is black and born in a poor country does not mean that they have got the innate talent and intellectual ability to transform the world and be a positive a driver in the world, or to bring rather a positive vibe to our global society. But therefore, if we allow this craziness that the elite are actually engaged in at the moment of preserving certain rights to certain elite groups of people, thinking that that kind of behavior will turn mediocrity into supremacy. If your child is born a billionaire but is a mediocre child, even if you put him to Harvard, he will have a Harvard degree, but he will not have a real impact in the world. He will run Goldman Sachs, but he will be the one who will bring something like the 2008 financial crisis, because they don't have enough intelligence. They just have daddy and a mommy who has got lots of cash and access to Washington politics. Yet the people that do have the raw talent and the ability to get the global economic engine rolling and roaring into the fourth industrial education, into the fourth industrial revolution, perhaps are just waiters in a restaurant in Cape Town, or undertipped, abused by bosses, treated like nothing. Yet they might actually have an impact in destroying the darkness that the devil has brought in this world. Things they're talking about, things like global warming, fighting COVID, fighting instabilities, wars around the world, and income inequality, and all the other problems that we have in the world. Perhaps we have ever overlooked in your analysis as rich and prestigious people. Perhaps we have overlooked the ideology that, perhaps if you look at the disenfranchised and those that we have been overlooking historically, perhaps you, Britain, may be blessed through Zimbabwe. I repeat, perhaps you, Great Britain, can be helped and be made even greater through Zimbabwe. What it needs, or all that it takes, is for you to see the diamond where others see dust. Are you going to be like Cecil Jane Rose, who saw diamonds in Kimberley and consolidated the diamond miners to build something majestic? Or you're going to be foolish and kick it and say it is just a worthless shiny stone, good for nothing. I am going for other things, dominance, to be called God-like. All is God. My name is Ngobane Zondo, and I am running to become the president of the Republic of Zimbabwe through the grace and the glory of God. Have a great evening.